So last Saturday, I was having a lunch with Ken Apfel and Caroline Hadley. They are longtime members of the church, and they bidded and won my sermon to give me a topic to preach upon and an article. We had a good lunch, and then toward the end, they were telling me, I believe, why they couldn't be here today, because they had gotten tickets to the Amy Sherald exhibit at the Baltimore Museum of Art. And I was having trouble remembering who that was, and they said the Michelle Obama portrait. I said, oh, and then Ken grabbed the Atlantic magazine and showed me the article, the advertisement for the exhibit. And I said, I definitely want to see that. He said, well, good luck getting tickets. I later found out that the site had actually gone down because there's just been so much demand for tickets. It did go back up, but they're hard to get. Of course, I found that there are connections in the church for me to get tickets, but I don't need them. You know why? Because that Monday, after leaving the house thinking, yeah, I would like to see that, I got an email. An email said, Dear Reverend Crestwell, we believe your pastoral leadership and advocacy in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County would make you a thoughtful stakeholder in an initiative we're launching, exploring how museums can engage religion and spirituality more thoughtfully within exhibitions, programs, and civic life. And so I started an email exchange. Next thing you knew it, that's where I'm going Monday for a coffee and a free tour. And honestly, things like that happen for me, and I don't think it's luck. I used to think I guess I'm just kind of lucky, but I'm starting to believe it's something else. I really am. Alignment. Not luck, but alignment. And I attribute it to a shift I had about 10 years ago. I stopped organizing my life around getting things, getting recognition, getting opportunities, getting security, getting ahead. And instead, I began to ask myself a different question. How can I give more? More of my time, more compassion in life, more presence with people, more generosity. And slowly, over time, quietly, my energy changed. My relationships changed. And my opportunities changed. Not because I chased them, but because generosity, I believe, creates magnetism. And somewhere along the way, I realized that I actually don't live to receive. I live to give. And that is what makes me come alive. So it's Ramadan right now. Ironic that we're in war, but it's Ramadan, a holy time for Muslims to fast and pray and purify. And one of the most powerful teachings I learned comes from Islam. And in Islam, there's a practice called zakat, pronounced or spelled Z-A-K-A-T, but pronounced zakat. And it means purification or growth. Every Muslim with sufficient means gives 2.5% of their surplus wealth every year, not as charity, it's not as, optional kindness, but as justice. Because in Islam, wealth is never fully yours alone. The poor have a right to a portion of it. And zakat exists so wealth does not simply circulate among the wealthy, but it purifies the soul from greed. Now, there's hypocrisy in all religions, and there's hypocrisy there, but that's the intent. And I like that. The goal of restoring balance in the community. There's something we can learn from that. And when I first heard about this, something clicked inside. Because zakat understands something deeply spiritual, that generosity is not loss, it's not zero-sum game. Generosity is circulation, like the blood circulating through your veins, that the heart gives away every second to us or we die, that the lungs give away oxygen or we perish. So love given for me expands us, and we receive it back, and we give it out. It's a reciprocal relationship, but Lord, love hoarded over suffocates us. And in my own spiritual journey, I've come to understand something that I wrote some years ago. We were not made to be accidentally generous. We were made to be generous. And I believe that in my heart now. There was a time I understood it, but I didn't believe it in my heart. There is a difference. Something was unlocked. And when you get it, you get it. That's all I can say. When you get it, you get it. And when I study zakat, I see Unitarian Universalism in part staring right back at me. Because Unitarian Universalism teaches in its seventh principle the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. That I am my brothers and sisters' keeper. And zakat says your neighbor's suffering should affect you, and it affects the spiritual health of the community. Our faith says there has to be justice, equity, and compassion in human relations for us to be able to create a beloved community. And so zakat understands shared responsibility of resources like our faith seeks to build our beloved community. This is essentially the same spiritual lesson, which is one of the reasons I chose Unitarian Universalism as my faith. I saw in it a faith of abundance and not a theology of scarcity. And I like in the word scarcity, there's the word scared in it. There's the word scared in scarcity. I wanted a theology that wasn't scared, one that was abundant. And, it's been 20 years, and I still remember that moment that you all have heard. If you've been with me long enough, you know this story. You have a similar story. When you discovered this tradition, couldn't believe that it existed. Wow. A place where a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist or a humanist or an atheist can come, that's spacious theologically. And I was reading about it. We're nerds, so I was reading a religious almanac and got to U for Unitarian Universalism. There it was. Manna from heaven. Oh my God, this is real? And I cried tears of joy. I finally found a faith large enough for my soul. And I said, I remember to myself, I'm going to be a Unitarian Universalist minister. Here I is. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this faith saved my life. It gave me purpose. We all need purpose. We all need a place to go that makes us feel affirmed. It gave me that. To be able to be affirmed, to have purpose, to live out my own vision of reality. That's not nothing. And so the work I do is to sustain this faith, particularly to sustain this congregation. I don't just want to transact with it, be a consumerist person. I want to interact with it. I don't want to compete with it. I want to collaborate with it. This is a relational relationship and something that I deem sustainable. And so it's something I hold as sacred, this faith. But when I first became a minister, I struggled with giving financially. I was in a different space. I had children and not a lot of financial resource, and I was a little more stingy. And I could have given more. Not a lot more, but I could have given more, but I didn't. It wasn't in my heart yet. And then when I did start giving, I felt like I needed to give because that's what I was supposed to do. It's not necessarily that I wanted to do it. It's like, well, I'm a preacher, I'm preaching and asking people to give. I guess I should give too. But it wasn't in my heart. And I can't tell you exactly when it happened over time, but something clicked. That giving is a spiritual practice. Just like your other spiritual practices, your yoga, your music, your walks, your hikes, your reading of devotionals or certain books. Giving is also a part of that spiritual practice. And today, I'm not trying to be braggadocious, but I give 8% of my income, not just to UUCA, but to this church, to the UUA, our association, to ACT, and to other smaller organizations, and to some causes dear to me. I came up in that culture where it was always guilt about giving. And even some of those end-of-year letters, you're like, good Lord, it's got a little churchy sound to this thing, man. I don't know. I don't like when people use guilt. It makes me not want to give. But that's not what we're talking about. We're in this stewardship time now where over the next few weeks we're re-upping our pledges for July 1st through the next 2026, 2027. And I wasn't sure how many people would come to church knowing that I was going to be talking about giving. Some of us don't have a relationship with money that we are comfortable with. And I get that. I was there. But my perspective has changed. I have reframed my relationship with money as energy, as my energy. And so I'm not telling you must give, but I want this community to thrive. And so say, I want this community to thrive. That's why I give. There's not a lot of places like this on the planet. And so I want this congregation and what it stands for to exist, for it to continue. So I support it financially. Stewardship is not fundraising. They'll be selling cookies in a few weeks. That's a fundraiser. Stewardship is different. It's spiritual. It's future making. And so we're deciding whether something sacred continues long after us. We are legacy builders. And I give to this community because it has done so much for me through raising my children. I think they're all pretty good adults. Through losses that you're aware of, this church has sustained me. Through grief that I am still managing. And through a lot of joy and personal transformation and growth. Through the unbearable and the beautiful. And like many of you, I've been here and experienced many dark nights of the soul. And again, this community has been there for me and said yes to life for me and given me the calm assurance to go forward. That's why I'm still a UU. Because love remains at the center, and love requires stewardship, not someday, right now. Every thriving community, spiritual or not, rests on three pillars: time, your time; talent, your talent; treasure, your treasure. We show up, we serve, and we give financially to sustain what sustains us. And here is the reality. To fully fund our ministry, the many programs you come to love, the fantastic staff, our justice work, Our faith formation that was so far down after the pandemic and is now back up to 108 children. That is fantastic. A ministry that's grown by some 200 members over the last 3 years. We're 531 members now. To meet these needs and all the other things I haven't even mentioned, we're asking for an $800,000 pledge goal because we're a growing and thriving community. And most of that resource, 90% of it comes from you. Yes, you can. And this number's not abstract. It represents pastoral care, all the anti-racism work. We're about to rededicate our Black Lives Matter sign. That costs. Our act, Anne Arundel Connecting Together, all that organizing work. You know, organizing for justice, justice needed right now for our immigrant community. All the charity we give, your generosity for our community partners. Of course, the beautiful music that heals our soul. Amen. Inspiring worship services. And a beautiful sanctuary and front entrance. All those require an investment to support our children and youth. They are our future in this beautiful building and its grounds. So much more I have not named. We do not exist because of history. We exist because people before you chose generosity again and again. There's this story going around, and it's true. I saw the piece of paper, the deed. 10 people way back when put up $10,000 each, mortgaging their houses to come up with $100,000 to get this land that we're currently sitting on. And nobody's asking you to do that. There are some churches that are crazy enough to ask you to do that. We don't do that. We don't need all of that. But they did. They knew in that time, that would be about the 60s, what this community could mean for them and for future generations. And because of them, we are the benefactors. It's our turn now. And I love this analogy I got from a UU colleague, that we have 531 keys. That's all the members. If you count pledge units, families, an individual family or collective family, partners, we have 357 units, so 531 members. We have these keys. Couples have to share their key, I'm sorry. We have these keys. And the keys that, expand faith formation, a key that, helps us to support the housing through winter relief, a key that is helping to do immigrant justice work, a key for our interfaith partnerships, a new key for a relationship, who knows, with the Baltimore Museum of Art. All these keys creating spaces where people who are spiritually homeless feel that they found their place to call home. Every key is your pledge. And here's the secret that no stewardship campaign can make up. Giving with intention changes you. It has changed me. Abraham Lincoln once said, "When I do good, I feel good." Generosity rewires the human brain and the human spirit. And when you give with loving intention, fear loosens. Connection deepens. Purpose clarifies. You begin to understand something profound. I'm not diminished by giving. I'm expanding. I become more expansive. I become in line with Brahma, the creative sustaining force in the universe that grows and expands endlessly. I align with the universe itself. That's not BS. It's truth. And that's why I live to give. This opportunity in the museum, it was just confirmation for what I've grown to believe about generosity. When you are generous, life meets you halfway. When your orientation shifts from accumulation to contribution, the right doors for you open. Relationships deepen, meaning multiplies. And suddenly, life feels less transactional and more sacred. So I want you to repeat after me if you choose to. I'm not making you, but if you want to and the Spirit is moving you, repeat after me. I live to give. I live to give hope. I live to give love. I live to do justice. I live to give possibility. May it be so. We are not in the business of saving souls, but we are absolutely in the business of saving lives together. Through our time, talent, and treasure, we can do amazing things. Dear friends, may generosity guide our hands. May abundance expand our vision. May love be the spirit at the center of all we do. And may future generations one day stand here in this very place and say, they cared enough, they believed enough, they gave enough so that we could be here today. Amen.